Hi guys, welcome to another crochet tutorial with me, Laura, and today we have a bit of a Valentine special. I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this tiny little padded heart, which is part of my Cupid pattern. There's no video tutorial for Cupid because it takes a bit too long, but you can find him on my website at happyberry.co.uk. But today I'm going to show you how to make this tiny little heart. So for this tutorial, I'm actually going to use a pink yarn at this time. I think it might show up a little bit better than red yarn. For some reason, black yarn and red yarn, they just don't work well on camera. So we're going to make a little pink heart. And this is a sport baby weight yarns. This is a yarn weight of 2, but you can use a yarn weight of 3, a DK light worsted weight yarn. You can use any size, to be honest. But with that, I'm using a 3mm crochet hook. And you're also going to need a pair of scissors and a yarn needle, which I've lost. Here we go, yarn needle as well. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so we're going to take our pink yarn. Now this is quite a fiddly pattern, so maybe using a thicker yarn, if it's too fiddly, might be easier for you. But the first thing we're going to do is a slip knot. Now I actually used the magic circle, magic ring technique for these, which does make it a little bit better, but I'm going to try the chain 4 method because it is easier for beginners. So we're going to do a little slip knot. And we're going to do a chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's see how well this works with the chain 4. And we're going to slip stitch into our first chain, bring the yarn through and straight through the loop on our hook. And that forms a little loop. And into there, we're going to work 5 single crochet. So this pattern's in US terminology. So in UK terminology, that's a double crochet. I'm going to start off with a little chain 1, don't count that as a stitch. Then going into the center of your 4 chain loop, be careful not to go into the first chain. I'm going to go into the center, bring the yarn through, then just wrapping it around the chains, we do a single crochet. We want 5 of those, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so 5 single crochet, and then you might just be able to pull that hole in slightly by pulling the tail end. And what we're going to do is we're not going to join the round, we're going to go straight into our first single crochet. So just count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Find your first single crochet, and in there we're going to do 1 single crochet. So put your hook into there and do 1 single crochet, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, so just count to 5. So that's 1, next stitch, 2, next stitch, 3, very fiddly. Next stitch, 4. If it's a little bit too fiddly, sometimes dropping down a hook size can help as well. 4 and next stitch, 5. Okay, so we counted to 5, and we're just going to make sure that our little tiny shape thing we got here pops out towards us like this. So you've got a kind of like a teeny tiny little beanie going on there, and we're going to cut our yarn and pull that loop through, and we're just going to neaten up this tail end. So take your yarn needle and we're going to sew into the same stitch we just worked into, and then give that a little pull and just make sure that's all popping out in the right direction. Now it does look like you have more stitches, more than 5 stitches by the end of this, so this can get a little bit fiddly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It sometimes looks like there's 6 because that's worked into this one here. But we'll come back to that, and we're going to repeat that again. So again, do a chain 4 loops, a little slip knot. So chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and put your hook into the first chain, bring the yarn through, and then straight through the loop on your hook to do a slip stitch. Then we do a little chain 1, and we work 5 single crochet into the center. Again, be careful not to go into that first chain hole, which looks quite big. We want to go into the middle and wrap it around the chains. Let's do 5 single crochet. 1, 2, 'Just wrapping it around the chains. 3, 4, and 5. And again, we can probably just pull that tail end a little. We're going to go straight into that first single crochet over here and do 1 single crochet. So put your hook into there, if my camera wants to focus, and do 1 single crochet. And do 1 single crochet all around, so just count to 5. So that was your first one. 1, 2, 3, again making sure it pops out towards you. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so make sure it pops out towards you, but this time we're not going to fasten off. We're going to pick up our first piece and we're going to put it into any of these stitches. I recommend putting it into the one where, so that was your last stitch worked into this stitch. So we're going to count these 2 as 1 stitch because they are technically 1 stitch. So we're just going to go into this one here, but any stitch is fine. Bring your yarn through and do a single crochet, joining the 2 pieces together. We'll do 1 single crochet in the next 3 as well. So in the next stitch, do a single crochet, next stitch, do a single crochet, and in the next stitch. So in the next 4. Now this is why it looks like there's 6, because that one there we worked into. It looks like you've got 2 left, but actually you've worked into 4, so you should only have 1 left because we had 5 stitches, remember. So as long as you've worked into these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to skip the last what looks like 2 stitches. So just skip the remaining stitches. And then coming over to this side, we can see that was the stitch that's been worked into. We need to skip 1 stitch, then work into this next stitch here, all the way over here, and just do it as neatly as you can. Do a single crochet and then just make sure this other side is popping out in the right direction. So these skipped stitches sit together in the middle. So we've done 1 single crochet there, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in the last 3. So you should have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. So we're doing 4 this side as well. So 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 2, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 3, and 1 single crochet in the last stitch, 4. Okay, and we've got our 2 little lumps sticking out like this, which is going to be the top of our heart. And we should have 8 stitches here. But what we're going to do is just bring up a loop, and we're going to push these tail ends, which are going to get in our way. We're going to use those as stuffing and stuff them into, camera doesn't want to focus today, stuff them into each side of the heart. That's stuffing. Okay, so I'm just going to do that and then I'll come back Okay, so I pushed the tail ends into the top just for a little bit of stuffing, and you should have 8 stitches, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to see the stitches, but just work to 8 stitches. So my first one is actually here, and I'm just going to do normal decreases because the invisible decrease is just too fiddly. So we're going to go into that next stitch, bring the yarn through, and go into the next stitch. It's very fiddly. You can see the stitch there though. To the next stitch. Okay, bring the yarn through and yarn over, pull through all 3 stitches to do a decrease, and then sometimes it helps to bring up a loop to work into the next 2 stitches. So there's my next stitch, bring the yarn through and into the next stitch. Bring the yarn through. Oops. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Bring up a loop again, work into the next stitch. Bring the yarn through and into the next stitch on the end. Bring the yarn through. So here's a very fiddly pattern. Yarn over, pull through all 3, and you should have 2 stitches left because we work into 8 stitches. You can just about see them here. Again, bring up a little loop. Just helps to work into those stitches. Bring the yarn through and into the last stitch. Bring the yarn through and then just pull your work tightly so you can bring in that first loop. Yarn over, pull through all 3, and then we are finished, and you can see our little heart shape. Going to cut our yarn, pull that through, and you can use your tail end to tie the center hole. You've still got a gap in the middle, so without distorting the shape of your heart, just going to work up through the center. Just don't pull too tightly because you want to keep that nice point, and you can use the tail end to just sew the center together. Those skipped stitches, like so. And then obviously you can use if you have a longer tail end, you could use this as a hanging loop as well if you wanted to, but I think I'm just going to hide this back down inside, sew back down, cut my yarn, and there we have our tiny little padded heart to go with our other padded heart. And if you get a little bit lost finding those 8 stitches, just try and remember to work into about 8 stitches so you get 4 decreases, and you should end up, regardless of what you're working into, should end up with a little point for your heart. Well, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope you managed to follow along. It's definitely a fiddlier one. Like I said, if you find it too fiddly with thin, smaller yarn, then just bulk it up, use a bulky yarn, a chunky yarn, and it might be a bit easier to see those stitches. But I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Hope you managed to follow along, and don't forget to subscribe over on Patreon for added behind the scenes footage and early access to written patterns and video tutorials and my podcast. And also there's going to be live crochet tutorials over there, and it's actually one coming very soon as well. So it's actually, if you're watching this on Friday, then the live is actually on Saturday. So definitely head over to Patreon. And a huge thank you to my patrons who have already subscribed. That's Maureen Edwards and Genevieve Peters, Isabel Wilson, Helen East, Lisa Kupek, Carla Coogan, and Laura, wonderful name, Novikau. I hope you pronounced your names correctly. A huge thank you. But thanks for all your support, for liking and subscribing, and I'll see you soon for some more crochet fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye. It's actually really nice to have a little bit warmer weather, still a bit cold, but a little bit warmer weather, and hearing the birds and spring coming out. It's just really nice. It's good to put down the crochet hook sometimes, get out in nature.